when you make mistakes, you can choose to learn from it, or you can choose to sit in the corner and wallow. One of those is productive. One of those is going to make you feel like absolute shit. And it doesn't benefit anybody except the people that don't want you to be expressing yourself. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast. And first of all, I have to address the elephant in the room, which is that I put makeup on today. And actually, before I started recording, I was just kind of like looking at the me on my computer screen. And like, this feels so much more like me. Like, I knew I wasn't putting on makeup, but I didn't know that I feel better when I do put on makeup. And so that's kind of messing with me a little bit. I've always loved like a bold red lip. And I mentioned that recently, I think in one of my working title book incubator calls. And one of my friends in there was like, you really pull off a red lip. Not everybody can. And I was like, oh, I didn't know not everybody can. And it sort of, I don't know, like it made me feel special that I look really nice in a bold red lip. And so we're here. It's Friday. I'm recording. The curls are curling. I put earrings on today. Like I showered. It's been a great day for putting a little oomph into my presentation. That's making me feel good. Go figure. But my eyes do itch like immediately. I've never found an eye makeup that doesn't irritate my eyes. So that does suck. And also all my lipstick is old. So I think I'm going to need new lipstick, I guess. It's my birthday month. So if you would like to buy me some lipstick, let me know. We can talk about it. Great. Okay. So we're here. We're queer. We're going to talk about being a beginner. And last week we talked about the sacred first draft and that like that's supposed to be messy. And this week I want to talk about the fact that most things are messy, especially when you are a beginner. And specifically, I would love to speak to entrepreneurship because like for the same reasons that my autism and ADHD and anxiety became a power throuple that made me kind of unemployable in the grand scheme of life because I don't like arbitrary rules and I don't like to do stuff just because my boss said so. So I kind of bring a questioning authority vibe that bosses do not like. So all that led me to entrepreneurship because I can't really stay in a job longer than a few years before I have some kind of ethical crisis about what that job is participating in. My first full-time job, I was a purchasing manager for a specialty chemical manufacturer. And when I was like solely in charge, we eventually got bought out by another corporation. But when it was a family-owned company, I was able to find like smaller, more local supplier companies who weren't the big names in chemical like Dow and DuPont and more that I'm forgetting because it's been a while. I've let a lot of that go from my brain because I don't need to know the chemical companies anymore. But, you know, I didn't want to participate in like huge chemical company profits. And so it was really nice that I could like find a local place and be like, oh, you can get me the same material for cheaper than I can get it from the big corporate guys. Hell yeah. And I was saving money and I was doing awesome stuff. And then we got bought out by a corporation and they had like larger contracts with like these major suppliers. And I was no longer allowed to like support my little guy local suppliers that I had found and sourced because they were like, no, like we would just want to get everything from the same place because then we get more volume and then we get more discount. So that makes sense, but I didn't like it. It didn't sit right with me. I had no idea I was autistic at this point in my life. And so I was like, okay, like I don't want to be in chemicals for the rest of my life. So I started looking for other work and I had been building a freelance writing career, like marketing. I was writing blogs and product descriptions and social media posts and stuff. So I had built a decent like marketing and copywriting resume. And so then I went and worked at an organic mattress company. And then eventually some of like the product development there was like, they wanted to save costs. And the pitch from somebody in product development was going to like cut some corners that I thought were antithetical to statements that we had made before. And I was like, well, I'm not going to write copy for this product that's subpar based on what we have previously established to be like the best way to make a mattress. And then you want to come in and make like a worse mattress. I could not handle it. And that was also very autistic of me. And so then I went I worked at a greenhouse and I was in marketing there. I was a content manager. I actually had like a team. I was a real manager for a second, which is hard to do because the like management wants you to be on the company's side. And I was on like my team's side, and that was difficult to deal with. Like eventually even there, and I asked like really like niche values-based questions when I interviewed for that job. I was like, do you use neonic pesticides? Because those are the type of pesticides that kill bees in like droves and is causing a bee population crisis for our pollinators. And the manager who interviewed me was like very impressed that I had these like very specific questions that were relevant to the industry, even though like I didn't come from plants anywhere. It's actually how I got into plants. That's where I got almost all the plants in my house are plants that I got from that job, which is pretty cool. I've kept many of them alive. Not all of them. I can't even say most of them. I've kept some plants alive. And then I quit that job in 2020 after the large push into the Black Lives Matter movement. I wanted us to make a statement in support of Black Lives Matter. Company did not want to make a statement because they thought we would, alienate our conservative flower audience and user base. I don't know, whatever. And like we sold our flowers in Home Depot and like retailer stores that had made statements in support of Black Lives Matter. Even if they just did that like black square in their social media feed, they were at least pretending to care. And I was like, we should make some type of statement, or like we could make a donation. Like this is a very catalyst moment in society. And like we target a millennial audience to buy our houseplants, and millennials are going to want to see us make a statement here. And I got basically like laughed out of the room. They were like, management's not going to go for that. And I wrote back with like Bible verses because it was a Christian-owned company. Again, with family-owned companies, they sound great on paper because like you don't want to work for a giant corporation, but sometimes it's not good. It's the family feels more kind of culty than familial, which is fair. So when they basically banned me from like talking about like Black-owned plant accounts because that was too controversial, like I was making too much of a statement, and also like don't post rainbow stuff in June. Like you gotta go through the proper channels before you do that. And so I was like, all right, deuces, I am out of here. So I just fucking quit without a backup plan. My backup plan was I will figure out how to have a business. And so since then, I have been figuring out how to have a business, which brings me to my point. Gold star for me, I brought us back to my point, is when you are a beginner in entrepreneurship, in anything, in something creative, right? Like learning to paint, learning to draw, learning to play guitar, anything creative, there's a learning process. And that's normal when we're kids. Like we're used to that, right? You go into music class and you learn basic rhythms, right? What's a quarter note? What's an eighth note sound like? What's a triplet? And you bang the little wood blocks together to like understand the basics of the beat. And then you move on. And then like we understand starting at the basics when we are children because that is how we are taught. And then as adults, for some reason, we think that we're just supposed to like intuit every single thing that we need to know in order to have a successful business or become a successful painter or jewelry maker or whatever the hell you're doing. We have to learn that. Like we have to be a beginner. So this is coming up. This is very pressing for me today because I had a session with a client yesterday and we were talking about her business. She's got a fledgling death doula business. So she does death care for people. She can help you like get your paperwork in order, like advanced care planning type stuff, your will, your power of attorney, things like that. And that's a very important service to offer because our society is not well set up and established to talk about death and to like normalize death. But death is something that literally all of us are going to experience one day. So I think she's doing great work. But just beginning, she's done like a couple of workshops and speaking engagements at nursing homes and things. She's like left her business cards some places. She's worked with a couple clients to like help them with paperwork. But, we had to talk about like boundaries, like what she has a tendency to kind of go above and beyond, as do I. Like we're recovering people pleasers. And so it's been difficult to navigate like where the absolute compassion of this job like where the line is, because of course she wants to help and like she wants to be there and she wants to do as much as she possibly can for her clients because she cares about them. But at some point she needs to make sure that like she's not burning out and she is getting paid for her labor and all those things. And it's really hard to navigate when you are in a service profession. Like me as a writing coach, a creative coach, a life coach, I want to help as many people as I can. And that's my calling. I am called to help people express their creativity, express their unique, audacious self, to follow their goals without judging them against capitalist norms. Like that's me. That's my sweet spot. Hey friend, it is time for another round of novel parkour. This time it's going to be a free 3-day workshop. In just 3 days, you're going to be able to take your epiphany, the thought that you had in the shower, and you will have it turned into a pretty robust outline that has enough structure to keep you moving forward on your first draft, but also enough room that you can be flexible when it comes to figuring out how to move from scene to scene, or if you have a plot hole, you're going to learn how to not get stuck in that plot hole. So this is specifically designed because I have ADHD for ADHD writers. So the autism wants a plan, the ADHD wants to frolic, and novel parkour is like my secret ingredient somewhere between plotting and pantsing is novel parkour. This is an approach that helps you put flexible boundaries around your writing process to complete your first draft without getting bogged down in super niche details and having to know exactly what genre you're writing in. And through this process, you're not only going to come away with resources to actually write your outline and get to know the details of your book and have sort of a framework for how to build those details, but you're also going to come away with the knowledge that your first draft will be messy, and that's actually perfectly according to plan. So please come join me. We are going to be spending 3 days together in May 2025. It's the 16th through the 18th. You can go ahead and grab your spot on my website, and then I'll see you in May. Novel parkour. It's going to be awesome. But it's a little difficult sometimes to manage that I also need to make money to live because we live in a capitalist society and I have bills. So that's hard, and you have to make some mistakes along the way. I saw this post on Threads that said like every single person in business has a client that they regret working with, has a client that they regret not working with, undercharged, overcharged, like there's this messy process of learning how to ride the bike of entrepreneurship, and we're always going to be making mistakes. And what we do with a mistake is we learn from it. I just taught this in my marketing class this week. You have to evaluate before you start something new, because otherwise you don't know like what went well, what worked for you, what didn't work. You don't look at it to find like where the breakdown was. Last year I did novel parkour as a 5-day workshop. And this year I'm doing it in 3 because the very first time I did 1 day and I was like, I need more time. So I did 5 days. Now I'm like, I think we could do it in less time. So it's 3 days. And that itself is the process, not of making mistakes, but of doing something and then evaluating like what felt really good? Where was something maybe lacking? What do I wish I had done instead? And you just have to keep doing it. If I had done the very first one and it was like a 2-hour workshop, and then I just kept doing the 2-hour workshop and never stopped and evaluated, maybe I should do this like over a few days to give people time to digest and time to like do one step at a time instead of trying to do it all in one go. And so now I'm trying that, and what do you know? It works better. Like people are having a much better time. They're like leaving way more comments to tell me what their process is and maybe ask a question about someplace that they got a little tripped up. I was able to look at people's work if they were willing to volunteer to have it looked at like in a group, so I could help people with their outline. I was able to do a lot of really good work because I wasn't trying to fit it all into like a 1-day event. And that's something that I had to learn. Just like my client. Oh, another thing that happened to her was that she did a presentation and then the person offered feedback. She said, do you want some feedback on this? And my client is like, no, I'm very happy with what I did. I don't need your feedback. And that activates like the rejection sensitivity. And that feels like crap. And you're thinking, did I do it wrong? Oh my God. And the conclusion that we came to together is like, if she trusts it, then she can just trust it. She can trust her presentation if she wants to ask for feedback because she feels like she's not hitting the mark and she's not getting the results that she wants from her workshops, her trainings, her visits to nursing homes, etc., then she can ask for feedback or seek it out. But you don't have to accept feedback just because somebody offered it. You have to do it on your own for a while to figure out which parts are you. I've run into that a lot where I would take a course or I would follow some coach and I would try and do it their way. And some things in their way worked. And sometimes I was like, this is too fast. Like I'm trying to sell something in a period that's only 5 days long. And that's not my jam. And that's not really like my audience's jam. We are people who take a while to think about it and decide. And I don't want to try and force people into a buying decision in just a few days. So I am a long launcher. You're going to see this novel parkour workshop. I'm going to market that. And then after that, I'm going to be marketing a writing program. And like, you're going to learn about it. I'm going to send some emails. I'm going to make some social media posts. I'm not going to have like a solid, you must join by date or else you're going to miss out, because I don't like that. I don't do well with that. It's just not my vibe. I might sell more if I did, but I'm figuring out how I sell, how Caitlin Fisher likes to sell things. And so if you're just trying to emulate how other people do it, you're not actually figuring out which parts of the process work for you and any accommodations you might need, especially for your neurodivergence. Like the whole point of this marketing incubator that I'm teaching right now, it's a 6-month program and we're learning about marketing, and I'm teaching them marketing techniques and stuff, but I'm also teaching them how to accommodate their varying neurodivergence in their marketing. Because if you have autism and ADHD at the same time, that is a spectrum of every single person is very different in like how much structure they need, how much playfulness they need, what motivates them. And so there is no one size fits all solution to marketing at all, ever, but also for an ADHD person, because first of all, if we don't know why we're doing it, we're less likely to do it, which is why bosses hate me, right? Because they'll say, oh, do this thing. And I'm like, why? What's that for? And they think that's insubordination. And I think I'm trying to understand the request, right? Because if I know what it's for, then I know how to like make it. I don't know how people are going around just like manifesting random reports when they don't know what that report is going to do. I'm not cut out for corporate life, and that's okay. So like, if you learn something from me, hooray, I want you to learn it. But I don't want you to exactly emulate what I do, because we are not the same person and that might not work for you. If you do just emulate what I do and that works, then hurrah, do it. But also the things that work for us now might not work in 6 months, might not work in 2 years, because our brains get bored of stuff. And that's so frustrating. Like, one of the most disabling aspects of ADHD for me is that a technique, a coping mechanism, a load-bearing habit can just change. Like, the things that give us the dopamine and the reward in our brain that encourage us to do more things and to be motivated to keep doing that thing, that can change at a moment's notice. And that is so frustrating. It is so frustrating that we can't just make one habit, one routine, and then follow it for the rest of your life. That might be autism, but that's not ADHD. And so ADHD comes in and is like, I came in like a wrecking ball. And you're fucked. You got to find a new coping skill. You got to find a new way to make yourself do marketing. You got to find a new way to talk to your customers. It changes. This is actually something that happened in Abbott Elementary, which is a great show and you should watch it. Janine is a 2nd grade teacher and she has always taught her lessons like the same way. And in, I think, season 3, she gives her students this like standardized test. It's just like a pre-test, like a prep test, but the scores are low. And she's like very upset by this. She's like, but my scores weren't low last year. Like, I taught it the same. I taught the same thing. Like, why are the scores low? And she's like, oh, maybe it's because I did it before lunch. And so maybe they were hungry. And so that affected it. And so she tests them again and they're still low. And then the other like more senior teachers eventually have to break it to her that she needs to change how she teaches it, because kids are different. You can't just teach it the same exact way every year, because you're going to have different learning styles and honestly, like generational differences. I think kids in high school are probably learning way differently than I did when I was in high school. I didn't have a smartphone. We didn't have TikTok. We got 50 text messages a month. It was a dark time. It was way different. It's probably going to be way different in 20 more years if we even still have a country. So there's that. Yeah, so learning styles change. Every single person is different. What works one year might not work another year. And also like the audience is always changing. The economy is always changing. The environment that we are in is always changing. Like online sales went crazy in 2020 because we were all inside and we were all like, oh my God, how am I going to live my life? Because I usually go to the gym or go to the library or like do this stuff. And we had to figure out how to like find a fitness class online or find a book club online, like things that used to be primarily thought of as in-person activities. Now there's a lot of things are like default to virtual first now. Not everything, certainly, but a lot of stuff. I typically will go look for a virtual group before I look for an in-person group. It doesn't occur to me to look for an in-person group. I do want to start going to the library to work there to sort of give support to my local library. If you're in Ohio, we have some phone calls to make because they're trying to gut library funding. So please call your state representative. So not like your representative that's in Washington. Not that our senators answer the phone. Bernie Moreno, where are you? Why don't you answer your phone? John Husted, why don't you answer your phone? Please answer your phone. So call your state representative at the Ohio State House in Columbus and tell them that libraries are fucking important and to stop being assholes. There's your call to action. I'll put a real call to action in the show notes. Yeah, okay. I'm going to leave us there because I keep going on tangents. And I want to make sure that I keep these sort of short and digestible and impactful. So the moral of the story is you're going to make mistakes at stuff. You may as well embrace that process and use it to learn something. That's a great little soundbite right there. That's exactly the point of this entire 20-minute ramble that I have been on, is that when you make mistakes, you can choose to learn from it, or you can choose to sit in the corner and wallow and say that you're the worst person who has ever existed and that you're obviously just meant to be a failure. One of those is productive. One of those is going to make you feel like absolute shit, and it doesn't benefit anybody except the people that don't want you to be expressing yourself. So make a capitalist angry today. Forgive yourself for mistakes. Learn from them. Get back up and try it again. Love you. Bye.
Coach, they'll change your approach and tell you a joke to lighten your load and help you along or sing you a song. Do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do.